Welcome everyone to episode 44 of Raw Sport. My name is Ahmed El Houli. We have a big one today. Mr. Tony Sheehan, how are you, buddy? How's things?
Ahmed, good morning. And I know we always talk about the calibre of our guests, but now we've gone international again this morning. We can't wait to introduce our next guest.
Absolutely, mate. International, we have legendary boxing icon, Mr. Rick Glaser, joins us on the show. Rick, how are you, buddy? How's things?
I'm doing well. Just doing business like I normally do every day. Just going to take some time out for you guys, an hour tonight, and over here, and I guess an hour over there in the morning. And let's get going and let's talk about what you guys need to talk about.
Well, Rick, we're very privileged to have you on our podcast. Where do we find you this morning, or this afternoon in your case?
I'm just in my condo, my wife and I's condo here in Williamsville, New York, a suburb of Buffalo, and just relaxing. And it's a beautiful, beautiful breeze outside, and nice breeze. And I got the air going on, the windows are open. And it's a beautiful day, no question about it. So just want to do what we got to do to, facilitate, your guys' show and make your fans happy, and all your subscribers and viewers and stuff, and just here to do all that good stuff, all those good things.
I'll tell you what, if people don't know you by recognition, they certainly would know that unique voice.
Well, it's New York voice. I don't know what it is, but I was born with it. I had great parents. My father died when I was in my early 20s, but he had cancer. He passed away. But my mother will be 85 tomorrow. We're celebrating her birthday. I'm part of the crew taking my mom out and all our relatives and stuff for dinner tomorrow night, and to of course a good Italian restaurant, and just doing my thing, what I do every day.
Absolutely. Rick, the last month or so we've had fights, some of the biggest caliber fights we've seen this year. We've had Golden Boy fight Jaime Munguia. We've had Ryan Garcia fight Devin Haney, and as of recent, we've had Tyson Fury have his first loss to.
And you forgot Inoue and
yes.
And Neri, so that was great too. 55,000 people sold out in Tokyo. I mean, you can't get bigger than this. This is what it's all about.
Absolutely. So, as a sport, we have a lot happening, even though this is the boxing season now. What's your thoughts on the state of the sport right now?
Well, the state of the sport is good. There's fresh money coming in with Turki Al-Sheikh and his Saudi organization, and it's great for boxing. Al Heyman is finally weakened, and he's got troubles, and he's dominated a lot of boxing in the United States over the last 9 years, and that's coming to a grinding halt now. And I think that we're gonna have bigger fights. I think that the winner of is Tszyu and whatever Virgil Ortiz is going to be in a great position. I think that they're going to do the Fury what's his name, Usyk rematch. Just a little bit of everything. I just think we're headed in the right direction.
Do you think the sport as a whole now, having PBC had a stranglehold on certain fighters, which held up many weight divisions? Do you think the fact that Heyman's losing that stranglehold is going to open up the sport and help?
Well, he didn't have a stranglehold on the sport. He had a stranglehold on a couple of divisions, welterweight, junior, middleweight. So he didn't have a stranglehold on the sport. It was okay. He screwed the business up. He screwed the sport up. He gave overpaid his fighters and put them in with soft guys, and diluted what people were watching at home. They got frustrated with boxing. They stopped watching. It's not good when your wife can sit down and watch a fight and know who's going to win the fight before it starts. Not a good sign.
You talking about your wife?
My wife.
Is she involved in boxing, or is she just an avid supporter of her husband?
She goes to the fights with me. She understands what she's watching, but I wouldn't call her. She's not my replacement. Let's put it that way to you.
What do you think of the Saudi involvement and the money that they're pouring in?
I think it's great. Boxing's truly a worldwide sport, such as soccer is, English football, or how you want to say it. But it's great. There's no two ways about it. The influx of money, the influx of interest in the Middle East, the influx of people that are Middle Easterners that live in England, especially England, and it's all picking up. It's all going in the right direction. So I think not only the influx of money, but the influx of the interest from people of Middle Easterners is going to definitely help the sport get bigger and bigger, because of the fact that you need a fan base. Okay. And like in any sport, you need a fan base, and people are getting the boxing landscape is getting bigger and wider, and it's becoming more global every day.
So
and that proves it right there.
So Rick, the Saudis are obviously investing millions into golf, into boxing, I even think they're heading into tennis and cricket. Do you think that's good for the sport? Are they alienating the bigger hubs?
It's not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. I think that, listen, if you can get Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn shaking hands and hugging each other in public, I mean, that's a miracle in itself. Come on, guys. That's like the Hatfields and the McCoys over here, feuding families. You know what I mean? So they've done some remarkable things already. It's nothing but great. So it's going to be nothing but great going forward. And this is what people don't get. Okay. They said, well, who says they're making money? So what? They're a country. If they don't make any money, they just print more money. What? I mean, they're not. It's not like it's a corporation or an individual who's going to run out of money. They just keep printing money, literally.
Much like their airlines, they just keep refueling them.
Exactly.
Rick, do we need a boxing league?
Nah, not really. Not really. As long as we can make the great fights as what they are now, it's like they've been making like recently, we don't need a boxing league. As long as they'll be able to make the great fights, we don't need a league.
Well, Rick, speaking of great fights, you've got the inside running on Garcia and obviously the stuff with Haney. What's the latest?
Tomorrow we find out about the test, what's going to happen, if it's positive or negative. If it's tainted, then he's going to get a suspension and a fine, and it'll turn into a no contest.
So that's what the boxing world knows. What do you know?
I don't know any more than that, to be honest with you. I haven't really been close to it at all. It's just something that I have, certain things I partake in because it affects the whole business, like the finances part of boxing, and what PBC is doing when it comes to finances. That affects the whole business, but that's not going to affect the whole business. That may affect a division or something, and those two fighters directly, but as a whole, doesn't really affect boxing.
But from an entertainment point of view, surely Ryan Garcia has to be good for the sport.
Oh, he's tremendous for the sport, but it doesn't even matter if he wins or loses, as long as he gives 1,000% of himself. He's like Arturo Gatti used to be. You know what I'm saying? And certain guys, it doesn't matter if they win or lose. Just give 1,000% of yourself. The people will come back and watch you.
Well, and then by extension of that, now there's a war of words on social media between Garcia and Australian boy George Kambosos.
Come on. Kambosos is like yesterday's news. Come on.
Well, because of Lomachenko or just generally?
He's had his time.
He just lost again for the third time in 4 fights. And the fight he did win, he shouldn't have won, against Maxie Hughes. He didn't pay his manager, didn't pay his trainer. The manager's got a judgment. The trainer's going to get a judgment. The fucker's a hot mess. That's all there is to it.
Wow, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Massive. Didn't pay his manager and didn't pay his trainer.
What's that?
He didn't pay his manager and didn't pay his trainer.
Correct. Everybody knows that. It's been written everywhere. He's not a good guy. Put it that way to you.
Wow.
What are your
But
thoughts?
I know he'll say, oh, I don't understand. I understand you either paid him or you didn't pay him. Everything else is
Exactly.
con gaff and bullshit. Not
Exactly.
paid, he's not paid.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think of the state of Australian boxing? We've seen a couple of world champions recently. You've been involved for many years. I mean, you worked with Bill Morty and the likes. How do you
Well,
see the state now?
up until a couple months ago, you had three current world champions: Jai Opataya, Jason Maloney, and Tim Tszyu. Now you're down to one out of three, but in losing, Maloney and both Maloney and Tim Tszyu didn't disgrace themselves, and they'll be back. Tim Tszyu's already coming back against Virgil Ortiz. So they gave 1,000% of themselves. Both guys, neither of them won, but they didn't embarrass. So they'll be invited to the big dance again. I mean, to have a small country like, and I don't mean by your square footage, by the amount of people you have there, to have three world champions, that's tremendous. That really is. I mean, it's really, really says a lot for the country. I mean, listen, Jeff Fenix is one of the great fighters of all time, probably the most underrated fighter that I know of all time. He's from Australia, right? I mean, Danny Green was world champ, WBA super middleweight champ. He's from Australia. I believe it's WBA. Maybe it was WBC. I think it was WBC, but whatever. It doesn't matter. He was world champ. And, you've drawn some big crowds over there. You had Jeff Horn beat Manny Pacquiao there in front of a lot of people. You had Gambosis fight in front of a lot of people a couple times against Haney. And, Haney, Gambosis was a world champ for a day and a night. So it's a great country for boxing. People enjoy it over there. Let's face it. And now you got Tim Tszyu's brother coming up.
Nikita.
You got Sam. You got number one contender Sam Goodman, who's undefeated. Peter Michael Chesky's the manager. You got some good fighters there, very good fighters, and you guys should be proud of the fighters you have, whether they win or lose. Even if they lose, they give 1,000% of themselves.
Well, I think as Australians, we're quite chuffed that we have somebody of your profile taking so much of an interest in Australian boxing. But one name I think you left out is Anthony Mundine.
Well, that was yesterday. That was a long time ago already. I mean, he hasn't been around in years, at least in competitive fights. So, yeah, he was a good fighter in his day. He was a top guy in super middleweight, very good fighter. We had a lot of very good fighters over there. There's no question about it. Daniel Giel was a good fighter.
Yep.
You've had a whole bunch of
He was a world champion too. Yeah.
Yeah, you've had a whole bunch of top fighters over there. They don't get the publicity in this part of the world as a general rule, unless they don't pay their manager and trainer, like George Gambosis.
Wow. Rick, the elephant in the room, PBC, what is going on? We're hearing all sorts of reports that they're in big trouble. What's happening, mate? You've been...
Oh, there's no question they're in big trouble. I would say they're in huge trouble. But,
wow.
Is somebody going to come along and bail them out? I hope they don't, because we don't need PBC. They've done a lot of damage. Al Heyman and PBC's done a lot of damage to boxing over the last 9 years, and it's been pretty disgusting. And I'm tired of it. I'm wore out. And I'll tell you something. What really changed? Okay, old timers watching boxing. So I used to go to the bagel shop back in the 90s and the 2000s, and everybody knows I'm in boxing. Hey, Rick, I saw the fights last night on HBO. Wow, what a great fight. Pa, 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 pa. Then Al Heyman comes along. The fights are on TV, and they're saying, what lousy fights. The people know what they're watching. That's all there is to it. Your eyes don't lie. I mean, it's no different than sex. Okay, having sex with a woman, she's hot. You can see her. It stimulates you. some ugly beast not going to stimulate you. This is the same thing. You know what your eyes are telling you.
Oh, these analogies are fantastic.
Well, thank you.
We've seen it in the last few years, the sport have Showtime drop off, HBO drop off, long-time partners of the sport. We've seen some of the greatest fights on HBO and Showtime more recently with Floyd and so on.
Because I'll tell you why they're not here. Because they were getting overcharged for fights, and the fights sucked. And they were losing viewers, they were losing subscribers, and people don't want to watch shit. People want to be entertained. It's an entertainment business, and people want to be entertained. And you can't put on Joe Blow and some good fighter and expect it to be a good fight. Once in a while, it turns out by accident to be a good fight, but it wasn't done by intent. You have to make fights that you know are going to entertain the public. That's the job as the promoter, as the matchmaker, and they're letting these fighters and these managers get away with hell with whatever they want to do, and they fucked up the product, and the TV companies dropped them. 9 TV companies dropped PBC. Can they all be wrong?
Well, from an Australian perspective, Rick, we could turn around and use Kambosos v Haney at Marvel Stadium. I think it was 2 years ago, the first fight. They had 40 to 50,000 fans just inside the stadium. Now, Haney's a brilliant boxer, but people want to see some punches thrown rather than, jab, defend.
Listen. The best way I can put Devin Haney, and when you walk into a whorehouse, you're looking for a tall, voluptuous, gorgeous woman. Okay? And in an analogy, that's not what we're getting in Haney as far as a boxer goes. It's just not happening. He just doesn't have that thrilling moment. Ryan Garcia set the whole tone of his fight with Haney. The first left hook he threw, he landed, and that fight was already elapsed. There's no time in a fight that Haney hit Ryan Garcia and Ryan Garcia ever changed the course of that fight. So that just shows you how right you are. There's no excitement when Haney fights. I agree with you 100% on that, Tony.
Thank you, Rick. Now, speaking of excitement, what are we expecting out of Tyson and Jake Paul?
I don't. That's not boxing. That's fraud, bullshit, scam. Okay. How do you think it's going to go down? The promoter is Jake Paul, and he's fighting Mike Tyson. He's paying Mike Tyson. Come on now. We need to go. That's like, come on. That's happy. It's what they call horse shit.
Yeah. Well, what does it go? Runs 5 rounds, and then Tyson knocks him out.
Remember, I'm a purist. Okay, I'm an absolute purist. I'm old school. I'm 24/7, 365 boxing guy. I advertise myself that way. And people can come to me all the time on the Twitter. They go, "It's 4:00 in the morning on East Coast. You're on Twitter. It's 3:00. It's what does the time have to do with it?" Nothing.
Rick,
they're still asking questions, aren't they?
absolutely.
There you go.
He never sleeps.
Rick, have these YouTube streamers that have been boxing good for the sport?
No, they had nothing. There's no proof that the people stick around to watch regular boxing. They're there to watch a particular personality, and it has nothing to do with boxing. They just using boxing as a tool to get people to watch, like they're doing something. I mean, listen, if Tiddlywinks was exciting, they'd be doing that.
The Amazon Prime deal that PBC has, I'm hearing a lot of
deal? What deal? A deal is supposed to be reciprocal. Where's that reciprocal? Well, it's one of the worst deals I've ever seen.
Tell us more. What's the finer points that the public?
There's no money. PBC pays for the production. There's no money. It's revenue sharing, and the revenues aren't much. I mean, it's just a horrible deal. They're not going to do any non-pay-per-view shows. They don't have any money. It's a joke. The whole thing's a joke.
Rick, you live up on the Canadian border. How do you see most of Australia's fights that are held on Australian soil?
ESPN Plus is one of them. The Zone's another one. The apps.
What do you think about Andrew Maloney? We know he had a tough call last week in Perth. What do you think about his immediate future?
He'll come back. Those Maloney's are tough kids. I mean, what's his name? Won the world title on his third try. Andrew Andrew just tried. He lost. He should have beaten what's his name in the rematch with the Mexican kid, and he didn't get the decision. It was a bad call. They're just tough kids. They'll be back. They're only 32 years old. They'll be back. They're tough kids.
Andrew's just come out of surgery for the bicep that he took through the fight in Perth. So we wish him all the best.
Tony told his manager and his trainer, Angelo Hyder, are very good friends of mine.
But Rick knows all the big names in Australia.
Yeah, he knows the big names everywhere, mate. The Zone. Has the Zone been good for the sport? Are they going to stick around?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I don't know. Sticking around or getting bought out, I don't know. But they'll be around, but I don't know what form. But it's definitely been good for the sport. There's no question about that.
I'm hearing that the Saudis are interested in the purchase of the Zone and a couple of others.
Well, I heard they're interested in investing money in the Zone. I don't know if they're going to take it over, but I heard they're going to put money into it. That's what I heard.
And there's a few others around as well that they're also interested in. Are you hearing the same, or are my sources no good?
No, pretty much the same.
Interesting. All right, Rick. That pretty much wraps it up from our end. Very interesting insights, especially on PBC and their deals and what's happening. We thank you very much for joining us, taking the time to have a bit of a chat. Tony, do you have any last questions for Rick?
Yeah, I do. Rick, one more from me. Tszyu v Ortiz in August. Who do you like?
Who? I'm sorry.
Tszyu versus Virgil Ortiz.
I like Ortiz. I think his feet are faster. He uses more angles. His hand speed's a little faster, and I think he's a more complete fighter than Tim. Even though I've been a big fan of Tim's, and I'm a believer in Tim. I think this is a different league.
Actually, one more from me, Rick.
Sure.
Tszyu's team doesn't have a rematch clause or contract with Samson. We had Samson on the show. What are your thoughts on that whole situation? Is that a bit of
well, the fact that Tszyu fought a guy on short notice that's a 6'6" left-hander, they don't have a rematch clause. They're fucking retarded.
How's that happen, Rick? How does that happen? Seriously,
stupidity.
Is that
absolutely between the promoter there, whatever his name is,
the Rose boys,
Brian and George Rose, and between Glenn Jennings, they should be fought. Was it
George and Matt Rose?
George and Matt Rose and the manager Glenn Jennings, manager of Tszyu, they should be fucking embarrassed. They should get a lobotomy, all three of them on the table at the same time. The fuck? What were they thinking? Short notice, 2 weeks notice. Guys 6'6" and left-handed, and they don't get a fucking rematch clause. They should be fucking embarrassed. Really. If I was Tszyu, I'd be suing all three for they call that
negligence.
What is it called?
Negligence.
Yeah, negligence. Yeah, exactly. Negligence. Not performing their due diligence. This stupidity. I mean, come on. Seriously. They should all get sued for stupidity. That's a dumb fucking move. That's boxing business 101. Come on. All three failed them? Please. It's embarrassing.
It's just, honestly, I have no comment, but yeah, it's all good. All right.
Well, why don't you have a comment? Why don't you have a comment?
Because I just can't believe that it's actually happened, Rick. It's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen.
What you're saying is that stupidity is glaring.
Yeah,
is what you're saying. There was a big spotlight on their stupidity. I mean, come on, please. That's really, really fucking dumb.
The problem is these guys that we're talking about think they know everything in this sport. Like you can't even talk. Well,
obviously they don't know lesson 101. Yeah. Get a fucking rematch clause.
Exactly. So we wish Tim all the best. He's training with his dad over in Thailand. So I think
He's what? What is he trying to do?
he's training with his father in Thailand. I've seen on social media with Costa. So maybe there's some changes happening. We don't know.
Maybe. I mean, they're not going to find a rematch clause in Thailand. That's for sure. Fucking retards. I mean, just to let you guys know, when I broker a fight for any but promoter, I broker a fight for, and I do business. I got 50 clients, and they're all corporate. I don't represent fighters. I represent promoters. I negotiate deals for promoters and stuff. And if the fighter's like a 10 and 15 guy, I'm sorry, 15 and 10 guy, you're just a journeyman fighter. It's an 8-round fight. Okay. I get an option agreement on his next fight automatically, whether you win or lose. You could lose and come up with it, be in a great fight. I want to put him in another fight again. Okay. Anybody that's any good and that's going anywhere, I get a rematch clause for him. I'm the one that negotiates that. I don't even let the promoter do it to anybody. And if they don't want to do it, then they're not in the fight. I just go get somebody else. It's my business. And for them not to have a rematch clause that is absolute boxing business 101. What a failure.
Wow. Tszyu, pick up the phone and call Rick, mate. Save yourself bloody heartache.
He don't have to call. You don't have to call me. Call a lawyer and get rid of those fucking 3 nitwits.
What a way to finish the podcast.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Rick, I'm going to give you one more opportunity. Any parting words for us, buddy?
No, you guys want me on again? We've had a good short time here, but I've been here a half hour. But you guys want me on again? Don't be afraid to get a hold of me. And I appreciate you guys following me on Twitter. And anybody else like to follow me, it's at Real Rick Glaser 1. And I'm a verified account. And I answer all boxing questions. I'm 24/7, 365. I've been in the professional boxing business 33 years. I'm an international agent, broker, and consultant. And ready to do business at all times. If anybody's in the boxing business and wants to do business, and I come with a list of references a mile long, longer than my short arms.
And Rick, for all those out there that didn't get that, what's your website?
My business website is glazerboxing.com.
GLASER.com.
Yeah, glazerboxing.com. Glazerboxing.com. Yeah, and I mean. I just, it's amazing that Tszyu, they didn't get a rematch clause. It's just unbelievable. It's embarrassing. Seriously, they should be embarrassed. Definitely. Talk about letting a kid down. Oh my God.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Rick Glaser. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, guys. Thank you
for joining us on Raw Sport, everyone. Take care. We'll catch you all on the next episode.
Bye-bye.